Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am here to talk to the people who may have a level 6 problem.
Hello, hello,
However,
everyone.
uh-oh,
How
that's
are
loud.
you? Welcome.
Sorry about that, you all. I'm still getting used to the technology. Um, so yeah, I'm here to talk to the people who may have a level 6 problem, right? But your nervous system, your infrastructure, your systems may be at a level 1 or maybe even non-existent, right? Um, this is for the people who really want to reach and build the reputation for yourself and your business. However, your systems may be shaky, your tools, your processes again may be non-existent. And so it's really important for us to know and understand that it's going to be really tough to try to build an empire from a state of survival, from a state of fear or anxiety, or even being overworked and or exhausted. Okay, this is really, really, really important. Um, and so today we are here to activate this journey of business ascension. And I want to ensure that your journey, that your infrastructure can hold your intention. I want to help us understand that we are here to explore the beautiful framework of creation, of visionary vitality. And by the way, you all, this is season 3. Okay, season 3. I'm so glad to continue this season or certain seasons of a series on this channel. Now, just to recap real quick, right? For those of you who are just joining, you may have or may have not, it's okay, you could still review. You may have watched season 1 of this channel, which was all about visionary archetypes. Okay, these archetypes is they're correlated to what you're here to do, and it's all about aligning your purpose and your craft and your passion with your profits. All right, season 2 was a visionary wellness series where we took a look at your business and treated it like a living, breathing organism. Okay, so we went through a lot of areas within the business that really pertain to how it's functioning, how it pertained to how it's showing up in performance as well as preparedness. Okay. So again, you feel free to review those lessons and leave the comments, leave your thoughts. I would really, really, really love to hear from you. So this season, okay, we went from internal work of your personal self, we went to the internal work of your business. And this season, I really want us to dig deeper into the practical tools, into frameworks and the importance of magnetic marketing. Okay. This season is all about marketing and ascension of your business. Okay. So I'm going to show you how to alchemize. I'm going to show you what you need to alchemize your leadership as you're out here working towards actualizing the result, the goal, the sale, more customers, more clients, whatever that goal is for you. Because here's the thing, if we're not anchoring our journey, if we're not anchoring ourselves in the state of the goal. And if we're not anchoring ourselves in the vision, if we're not anchoring ourselves in the frequency and the state of wealth and prosperity, it really doesn't matter how much you attract. But because what will happen is you will attract a whole lot of things, but it's going to leak right out of your hands, right? It's one thing to attract something and bring it into your reality, and then it's another thing to actually hold it and maintain it and sustain it. Okay. And so, again, welcome to season 3, you all. And I am really excited because we're not just talking about scaling, we are talking about ascending. Okay. So, in this particular season, we are going to go through some frameworks of ascension and magnetic marketing. All right. So, for those who are not familiar, I am Charita Raél. I have a company, The Vision Catalyst. We are a hybrid firm, a hybrid agency where we have a creation lab and a visionary vitality component of our company. Because as you are ascending your business, you need to ascend yourself, right? So, again, I am really big on helping us understand our creative energy and how to utilize our creative energy. And especially now, my channel is for everyone. However, there is a special place in my heart as a woman in business for those of us women who really want to know how to operate in this world of commerce and business without losing our connection to our feminine selves, okay? And so while I do believe that a lot of systems and frameworks can apply to both men and women, what I'm experiencing in my own reality is that my approach to business um, will not be performed the same way as a person that is in a masculine body, okay? A man, okay? There are, and God created us differently for a reason. We are able to accomplish the same goals, but how we do it, how we get there, our innate skills, talents, and abilities are different, right? So that will be another video, but I really want to stick to in this video the framework of ascension and also the framework that correlates to magnetic marketing. Are you ready? So let's get into it. Get your pen and pad if you don't have it. All right. So the first step in ascension, okay, this we're going to cover the 6 A's of ascension. And throughout all of my videos, you all, I will not only talk about my experience, but also the experience I've had with a lot of my clients. All right. And I am so happy for them. I'm so happy for the growth, witnessing from where they started to where they are now. Some clients are local, some clients have national reach, some clients are international, some clients, started local and then move internationally and from all industries, right? Rather it be sports, hospitality, real estate, um, travel, wellness, nonprofit, mission driven businesses. I am here for it all, especially if it's in alignment to my skills, gifts, and talents and my life path and purpose. Okay. So, number one, let's talk about the first A, which is alchemizing. Now, I want to be very clear, okay? This channel incorporates science, it incorporates what people may call metaphysics. I love me some God, okay? And that whole aspect about how spirituality and things that are going on in the non-physical world really is the reason why everything exists in this physical world. Okay, so again, as I've explained in other videos, I make it very clear if I'm invited to a space that is spiritual and I can't talk about the importance of economics, I may not be a good fit. If I am in a space of commerce and economics and I can't talk about the spiritual and metaphysical and inner work and all that, then I probably won't belong well in that space. Okay. I am here for work-life integration. This is not something that should be separate. Um, One can feel very fragmented. Now, again, I can't speak for everybody. I will say this in my experience. Working with men, I have witness that, there is more of a capacity to start a business, even though it's not their passion, it's not their desire. It's really because it makes a lot of money, right? Versus working with women, what we create is an extension of our creative energy. The same way when we birth a child, there is an umbilical cord physically, and even when it's cut, that umbilical cord will always be there energetically. So it's the same way in my experience that when I birth something, it is coming from me, and there will always be some kind of energetic connection unless I go through a process of ascension and transformation and release and all the things. Okay. So that's a whole, what, that's another video. And what I am going to do is make sure that I create a video that's all about what we create as an extension, which is why one of my most important um, services or sessions that I provide is making sure that whatever you're creating is very much aligned with your life path and purpose. It is something that's going to help you to your purpose-filled path to prosperity. All right, alchemize. Now, alchemy in itself, and I have to do a video on this, has the process of alchemy. Have you ever studied that? Alchemy has a lot of steps to it. So this stage has so many components that intertwine, and we'll get into that in another video. But what I come to find out is that when we're alchemizing, the first step is really addressing a reality. Okay. And especially when it comes to business, we are addressing a reality when it comes to the gaps that are present in our business. Okay. What do I mean? Number one is there are gaps within ourselves, okay, as leaders, as visionaries, as CEOs, as business owners. And a lot of times, what I have come to find, and especially as you all get to know me more, you'll understand not only my background in advertising, mass communications, and marketing, but also as a full-time holistic wellness practitioner that is certified in all types of modalities from indigenous traditions, energy medicine, herbs, and just all kinds of things. Okay. Because I needed to have an inner sense of ascension for myself to really be able to be more bold and stand more firm and be successful in my business. Okay. So, the first thing, like I said, alchemizing, this is the inner work. This is understanding how we have to transmute and shed and go through certain processes within ourselves that are creating the blockages to our growth. Now, this could be beliefs, this could be fears, this could be building a business from an avoidant state of mind versus a future self state of mind. And this is so important. Let me tell you what I mean. So I have created quite a few ventures. Okay. I have created quite a few ventures. And all of those ventures did not survive. All of those ventures did not become successful. They had success during its time, but I would be lying to you if I would say they're still sustainable. They're still operating. They're not. Some of them are on the shelf. Some of them I had to bury. Okay. What is the point? The point is from those experiences, I've learned a lot. I've been through a lot when it came to overworking, exhaustion, bad experiences with clients, bad experiences with partnerships, all kinds of things, right? So you have, and so you have two choices. You could either be in the space of creating a business from a space of avoiding all those things to happen, or you can be in your current state of existence, creating from a space of future self. So when I think about what I want my business to be or what it is becoming as I'm on this path, when I said, you know what? After coming to this current state of reality, realizing that okay, I was in this field all allow me to not really love intense. I want my company to like this is what I want my life to look like, and my life looks like this because of what I've created. Okay. So when I am in this present state of being right now, I have a choice. I have a choice to say, I am going to create so that I don't go through this again. I don't go through that again. I don't experience that again. Or I can create and say, I'm creating because I want this to happen. I want that to happen. I see this vision for myself. And when you learn the difference between creating from avoidant base versus future self base, it's a total different existence that you're living in. Okay. And I explained this in another video when a person is creating from an avoidant place space, an avoidant based place, there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of tension, there's a lot of worry, there's a lot of fear, there is a lot of scenarios being created in your head that hasn't even happened, right? However, and when you think about those, when you think about that, you got to think about what that's doing to your body, what that's doing to your energy, to your emotions, to your neurological system. And so when you are creating from I see this vision. I see myself here. I see myself impacting these many people. I see the results that my clients are getting. Like, there is such a different state of creation that you are creating from. It's exciting, it's inspiring, it's motivating, it is encouraging, right? It's fresh, it's more radiant. It's just a different state of being, right? And so a lot of what we've been through, not only in our business journey, but our personal journey, it has contributed to us creating parts of ourselves that is called character armor. Okay. Now, one of the reasons why I created the system Bioenergetic Brilliance is because as I was working with a lot of geniuses, a lot of visionaries, not only on their personal wellness, but almost always those personal wellness sessions turned into business advisory. I realized how their mental, emotional, and energetic state of being was literally creating stagnation in building their business. Okay. So understanding that what we've been through and, personal and business created certain fears and things. So we've created this armor, we created these characteristics about ourselves as a form of protection. And however, sometimes it's hindering us more than it is helping us. All right. So that is just the first part of the alchemization. Another part of the reality, not only in your personal work, is really taking a look at the gaps in your current systems and processes, right? Now, some of you may not have any systems or processes at all, but that's okay because this is why we are here. We are here to have a realistic look about our current state of existence as a leader, as a visionary, as a creator, and also what it looks like in our business. Now, as a creative being, as someone who loves freedom and expression, there was a point in time where systems and processes were an ick. And do you know how I developed that belief system? Was because of my experience in corporate. Okay. Being in corporate was like, I have to create based on your processes and your rules. I mean, which, is standard for any business, especially if you're working for them. But nonetheless, this is my journey. I have to create based on your system, on your rules and your process, which limits my creativity. And so now when I'm starting my own business, I carry that belief system in my own business. That was not good. That was not healthy. Okay. So systems and processes, I absolutely love. I bask in them. They are my best friends. And systems and processes does two things. Number one, it creates freedom of worry. It creates freedom of anxiety because once you have systems and processes, you pretty much created them based off of experience. And because those systems and processes will almost always produce the desired result. Okay. The second thing it does, it increases my creative capacity. So without systems and processes, I'm always thinking about how to do it again. I'm the hamster on the wheel. When I'm lacking systems and processes, it's always feeling like I have to build from scratch. There's no automation, there's no guide to go by. It's me utilizing creative energy to go through a process that if it was written down, if it was automated, that creative energy I'm utilizing to think about this system and process to get the thing done could be redirected somewhere else to my next creation, right? And so, one of the things I talk about in bioenergetic brilliance is how, there's a specific part of our brain, and we'll go over this more in our leadership vitality lessons, but there's a specific part of our brain that is super important to be utilized for strategy and processes and critical thinking. But if we are operating from a unstable nervous system, instead of us being able to focus and think clearly, our creative energy is going to other parts of our body that ignite certain chemicals in our body that contributes to worry and fear and survival. And so now some of those creative juices, they're not where they need to be. Okay. So alchemizing, address the reality, notice the gaps. All right. And so once we notice the gaps, you will come to a state of awareness. The awareness may sting a little, but I promise you it gets greater later. Okay. So the next part after alchemizing is aligning. Now, people throw this word around a lot, but I really want to get deeper into what this means. So, when you've noticed the reality, you've had a real conversation with yourself. I mean, a super real. I always say the worst person you could lie to is yourself because you got to live with you every day. So once you've realized the gap in in where you are personally as a leader, as a visionary, and where your business is when it comes to systems and processes and just, the overall gist of it, there comes an awareness, right? And then also acceptance, right? Which is good, right? Because the next thing you are encouraged to do is now the version of for those who are led CEO and our businesses are proudly extension of our creative energy. Once we align, we really start fighting against who we are authentically. Okay. What does that mean? That means that because we understand who we are and how we operate, we're able to match our business model to our particular visionary archetype. Okay. And I'll be sure to post the link to that particular quiz. So, because, ooh, y'all, it's so deep. I'm telling you, whew, watch the Visionary Archetype season one, okay? Because there's different types of archetypes, and when we are operating in business, different parts of our nervous systems and our bodies that contribute to certain emotions are affected. Again, this is the science of bioenergy and of bioenergetics. And so when I learned to match my business model based on who I am authentically, it really allowed me to embrace infrastructure. And it allowed me to understand the importance of infrastructure, right? And what do I mean by that? I'm so glad you asked. Number one, timing. There's this beautiful thing we have called a circadian rhythm, right? But before I even get into that, we know the average work day for most people is 9 to 5. We know that the average work week is 5 days a week. However, most of us have been born and raised in a society where we have to operate off of someone else's clock, okay? Understandable, right? For many reasons. Not to say I can fully agree, but I understand. Now, the beautiful thing that you have as an entrepreneur and a CEO is you literally have a choice, no matter what anyone says. There's so many opportunities out there. You literally have the choice to be on the clock you choose, okay? But more importantly, your body already operates off of a natural clock where there are certain times of the day where your creative energy is the most highest. That's when you should be doing certain activities. There's a certain time of day when your body is going to be more aligned with critical and strategic thinking or administrative tasks or rest or sleep or whatever, right? And timing is a beautiful concept because when you are aligned with your design, then that means that you are going to be operating from a state of clarity, of organization, of energy, and you're not operating from a depleted fear-based or from a place of anxiety and rush. Okay. So that's number one, alignment. Okay. And again, as we get deeper, I definitely have all kinds of opportunities where we can really get to learn what that looks like for you. Now, another thing you're going to align with is the type of is understanding the type of team or help, right, that you're going to need to really ascend your business. Okay. So again, as you're alchemizing, you're being real with where you are, you're being real with where your business is. You're going to start to realize that, okay, these are my strengths and I can live in these, but I'm also aware that I may need to connect with some people or some systems that can really operate in the spaces where I'm not as strong. Okay. Now, the other part of alignment, and this is the most important, okay, this is the most important, is aligning your daily activities. One of the most important lessons that I learned about this was high value tasks versus low value tasks. And when I say high value versus low value, there's so many aspects. Number one is there are certain tasks that we feel like we need to be doing that's going to get us to the future goal when really no, that's not it, right? There's another aspect where the high value task is I need to only focus on what I'm good at. I need to focus on my zone of genius. And what's not my zone of genius would be considered a low value task because it's not high on my list for me to do. It's still a priority to get done. However, whoever does it has to be the person that's actually good at it. Like that's their zone of genius, right? Have you ever, do you notice how you operate when you are doing something that's outside of your zone of genius versus doing something that's within your zone of genius? There's a different level of implementation and commitment and precision and, overall creative energy to it. Now, there are many who say, hey, no matter what, it needs to get done. And to some extent, I agree with that. Again, this is all about understanding who you are in business, okay? And I can't blame it on me being a woman or whatever. However, I will say I choose to stick to what is in my zone of genius because I always see the consistent results of what happens when I do so. Now, if something hits the fan, if I'm in survival mode or just lacking something and I have to do it, fine. But my top choice is always going to be I'm going to do what's in my zone of genius and allow others to come in and operate where it's not my zone of genius and they because their zone of genius. Okay. So daily activities is super important. And again, understanding that if you have a goal to own, a restaurant, okay, is the daily activity of watching things about building an app or, not to say a nap wouldn't help, but if your goal is to say, I need a restaurant, should you be watching videos on how to build an app or maybe researching how to get restaurant equipment, right? Should you be watching videos about the next car that's coming out or conversations or in places and spaces that deal with everything else but the restaurant industry versus going to the places and spaces that deal with things that deal with the restaurant industry, right? So your daily activities is super important. And even on a personal development level, what are you listening to? Who are you around, right? Which brings me to my next point, okay? Because the daily work activities contribute to the third part of ascension, which is attuning. Okay. Attuning is all about calibrating your frequency. It's about calibrating yourself in order to reach the version of wealth and business growth that is your goal. All right. So one book that I haven't even read yet, but I hear about it, but I do have some other books from the same author. But I get the concept, like without even reading the book, I get the concept. It's who, not how. So kind of when I went back to systems and processes and then your team, if I need if I need a app built, do I need to concern myself with how, or do I just need to find who that can do it? And because they know how to do it, I don't have to utilize my creative energy trying to figure out how to do something when all I got to do is find the who. Okay. And it's the same thing for attunement, right? Who are you around that is in alignment with the goal that's carrying the frequency of success or the version of embodiment that you are looking to grow into, personal and business, right? What are the conversations that you're having? What are like I said, the things you're listening to on the daily, right? What things are you researching? Are you already acting like a restaurant owner? Is your language, are you surrounding yourself with things that are feeding into you and nourishing your mind and nourishing your thought processes and nourishing or presenting opportunities for you to start actualizing this goal. Okay. So attuning is all about calibrating your frequency to that version of wealth and business that you want. Now, here's another thing that attuning does. When you really get into the daily activities, when you start to be more clear on when you work best, when you are aware of where you are as a leader, where your business is, when you attune to the whole world of being a restaurant owner, you also get to know the people you are here to serve, what their likes are, what their dislikes are. And do you know what happens with that? And we're not even talking about attracting them that yet. We're talking about attuning yourself to the frequency to where your messaging is so on point, right? When you're talking to people about who you are and what you do, when you are creating your messaging on social media or on your websites, when you attune to this particular frequency of where you want to go, you then start to create messaging, and your language and your communication starts to be more in alignment with where you're going. Okay. Now, specifically, when we are, talking about attunement, again, I want you to think about broadcast and bandwidth, okay? Because remember, your awareness of your gaps allowed you to, which is the alchemization, allowed you to be in alignment with your next steps, which contributes to your daily work activities and how you're working and who you're around, which then starts to attune your frequency to the path of success and wealth that you are shooting towards. And because of that, how you're communicating. And here's the thing, it's not even just about talking. When I say broadcasting, your energy, your essence also broadcasts a frequency of who is that person? I want to get to know who that person is, right? Or oh, not or, because I'm trying to stay here because we're actually getting into the next A of Ascension, but broadcasting when you're sending out the frequency, and then it's also important bandwidth, because guess what? When you start to send out a frequency, what happens? There is a response that comes, okay? And so from that response, it leads us to our fourth A in Ascension, which is attraction. And this is all about magnetism. Now, y'all, this is where we start to get deeper into marketing, right? Because everything before that, even if you hired a marketing agency or company, there's always like this awareness, right? Like the alchemization, so I'm gonna tell you this, right? So if you came to me, or when I was working for a lot of different companies, and sometimes we had to go outside and hire agencies, right? So we go to this agency and we say, hey, we are this company and we're talking about the reality of our gaps. We're lacking these sales, we're lacking these conversions, we're not getting the response that we need to get, so forth and so on. So then the agency says, okay, so now I'm aware of what the gaps are, not only because you told me, but also there's a way we did our own market research and look at your processes and your patterns and your campaigns and the response. And now we are aware of the gaps. So now when that agency is aware of the gaps, they start to align, right, your business with the kind of with okay, they start to align your business with the certain frequency that it needs to broadcast. But how do they do that? They look at the market, okay? They look at the market and say, all right, well, based on what you do and the products you're here to serve, here is probably the best timing to start advertising. These are probably the channels that you want to advertise to. These are probably the daily activities or the processes and systems that we need to get in place in order to prepare for this particular campaign. Okay. Now, when the campaign has been created, now it's time to broadcast. Okay. So now we're out, we're clear with our messaging, we're doing our promotions, we have our ads, our website looks different. You got online ads on Shopify or not. Yeah, shop, yeah, maybe shop. No, well, Spotify. I was thinking, okay. And so now now you broadcasted this new rebranding effort or this new campaign effort, right? So then what happens? Then you start to attract the clients. Now, mind you, if in that attuning session you were not you did not work on the bandwidth, meaning that once you started attracting, all these customers started coming. And can you imagine if you didn't have the systems and processes in place to serve these customers? Oh my goodness, that would be crazy. And a lot of businesses that has happened before where you put out something and you're getting all these orders and all this feedback, but yet there's no bandwidth there, the capacity to hold that many clients and serve them or customers, it wasn't there, right? And so when we talk about attraction, again, that is a result of your attunement. Okay, so I want to say that attunement is kind of the beginning of the broadcast and the bandwidth, and attraction is like really where the broadcast and the bandwidth lives. Why? Because this is where we get into the first 2 points of marketing, effective marketing, because the broadcast and the bandwidth, it has to do with your reach, who you are attracting. Now, mind you that all of those processes before helped you identify your ideal customer, your ideal client, the people that is most likely going to want to take part in your product and or service. Now, during our big idea blueprint, there is a whole process where we lay out your ideal customer profile from their demographics, their psychographics, their objections, the reasons why they would buy, the reasons why they wouldn't buy. I mean, it's a whole beautiful thing. But the reach is super important, okay? So and here's the thing, when we talk about the reach and who we're attracting, and then they start coming in, the other part of the marketing is the reputation. So they come in, right? They see your ad, so that tells us something about that tells them something about you. They look at your website, that tells them something about you as well. They may start looking at your social media. They may start talking to their friends. Have you heard about this? Da, 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 right? So reach impacts your reputation, right? Okay, now your reputation really lies heavily into your ability to manage the volume and or the workload, right? That is coming in and the results that you are saying you can achieve. Okay? So again, this attuning and attracting goes together, all right? So again, attracting is all about magnetism, the broadcast, the bandwidth, the reach, and the reputation. Now, after that, what happens? What happens when you reach the people and then they start interacting with your brand or your company to really get to know who you are, which again starts creating more of a reputation. It takes us to the next part of ascension, which is actualizing. Okay. So I'll say that when you are in these stages, it's very important because you'll start to realize again the bandwidth. I can't stress this enough, okay? Because when your reach is out there and you're attracting people and then they're experiencing your brand, you then have to be ready to serve them. Okay, how are you responding to not only them but also things when it comes to customer service, also when it just have like when people just have regular questions about or curiosities about, okay, how is your product or service going to change or transform my life or add a convenience to my life? Because some people may be product based, some people are service based, right? Another thing about actualizing is delegation, and it goes kind of back to the systems and processes. One of the most, one of the most biggest things that we fear or that we can lack is the art of delegation. To be a business owner, you really have to master the art of delegation. because otherwise you're just self-employed. You're just working for yourself. Some people say being self-employed is not the same as owning a business, which I'm in my experience, I really do agree, okay? As a self-employed being, my business runs only when I am involved, or my business runs only when I am involved. If I am not involved, there's no social media getting done, there's no emails being replied to or sent out, or customer service inquiries or any services getting done. Now, when I have a business, right, and because I have systems of response, rather it's addressing a concern, rather it's addressing a service that needs to be handled, and also delegation, meaning I don't have to be the only one doing everything. Oh my gosh, right? This is a part of the readiness, okay, which is super important. Again, going back to bandwidth and capacity. And I want to say this, these steps of ascension very much can work simultaneously together. It's not always, sometimes it can be, but it's not always. You must complete this one before you get to that one, before you get that. A lot of these things are overlapping and sometimes running at the same time. Okay. So response and delegation, super important. Now, let's backtrack a little bit because I really want to go through this. And I repeat things so that you could really get it, so that it could really just anchor itself into your subconscious. So, alchemize, we've addressed the reality. We've become aware of a lot of gaps. And because we're aware of the gaps, we have aligned ourselves, our business, our activities to start creating the momentum of the result. And because we started those activities, because we started operating in a way that is to get towards our goal, we started attuning ourselves to the frequency of success of that goal. Okay. And because we have attuned ourselves to that frequency, we started attracting, right? We started magnetizing customers, clients, partners, right? And we attract, of course, through marketing. And this is why I said some of the first components of marketing begins here, like external marketing. I want you to think about the ones before, like internal marketing, and here is like the external. So now we are attracting because we've attuned ourselves, and attuning ourselves is also we have curated the messaging that is to attract our ideal customers and clients. So because we're broadcasting, right, we're sending out signals, it's reaching people, it's establishing our reputation, no matter if it's a reintroduction or if it's a new introduction. Okay. And then we start actualizing the feedback. We start actualizing the engagement. We start actualizing sales and inquiries and the people coming in to say, hey, I really want to buy your service. And because we broadcasted to the correct person, and because we've worked on our systems and processes, which gives us the bandwidth, we are ready to serve them. So we are able to respond in a timely manner. We're able to deliver the product or service that we say that we do. And we can do it in such an efficient way because you're not the only one doing everything. You have people who can handle the admin while you service the customer, and then the other person is out there handling your sales or your public relation or whatever. So the delegation is absolutely amazing. Now, what happens when you have attracted and actualized the result of people actually starting to come in and engage with your brand, rather it's inquiry or sales? We have something called remarketing. Okay. Now, remarketing hits two different ways. People have either bought from you already and you're remarketing to them in a way that's deeply immersion, that is contributing to brand immersion. Excuse me, y'all. It's later in the day. Okay. And Then you have people who may not have bought from you yet, but they're a part of your ecosystem, right? And so when you're remarketing, you are establishing a sense of trust, which eventually turns into loyalty because they are experiencing your brand from different angles. Okay, so this is where the remarketing comes in, right? Again, if the people have already bought from you, you're either remarketing them a new product or a new service or a new experience. People who have not bought from you yet, you are immersing them in your brand through education or through certain forms of interactions and or opportunities. Okay. Now, once you have actualized the result, which is almost always sales, right? And of course, another part of the result is we actually want to make sure that what we're serving to people is actually doing the job that they need it to do, rather it's a product or a service, right? We want good customer experiences. Okay. So once that brand immersion starts to happen, your business starts to anchor itself in stability. Why? I'm so glad you asked. Because you have went through the process of identifying gaps, which made you then create systems, which then aligned you with the path of success, right? And also understanding the goal that you're reaching towards. And then you started attuning yourself to that frequency, and you have been able to get more clarity on what you're saying, to who you're saying it to, and why people should care, and why interacting with your brand is good for them, right? And because you've done that, you sent out the broadcast, you started attracting people, right? And clearly you have the bandwidth to service the people, which is actualizing your results of more sales, more growth, more impact, right? And because you have this system down, because you have went through these processes, you started anchoring yourself into the path of success. And you are now no longer the bottleneck in your company. Your company can operate without you doing everything. You may even be able to say, you know what, I need a week, I need 2 weeks, I maybe even need 30 days. But because you've delegated, you got systems, you got processes, you got all these things, the business can really run without you being there. Okay. So, because your business is stable, because there's systems and processes that have been done over and over again, and the customer experience is always 5 out of 5, you're now reliable. You are now reliable. Okay. And this is the sixth stage of ascension. You are now reliable. It's more stable. You have a proven system. And again, the consistency of experience, right? And then because you are stable, and because you have loyalty, because people trust you, you are able to resell to these people. Okay. Again, ascendant offers or other types of intensives. And I saw this video, and it was beautiful, the anchor part, because there was an analogy of a rocket ship. Okay. And I talked about this in another video. When you think about, I don't know if you ever saw those videos where, like, NASA was like, yeah, the space shuttle is ready to take off. This space shuttle, started on the ground, and then you start to hear this rumble. And even people like in the area, they can hear the rumble. It's loud. They may even feel the shake. And then this rocket takes off. And then in order for the rocket or the spaceship to go, right, to start ascending, there's a lot of force, there's a lot of fire and fuel and all these things that have to create the momentum for this spaceship to start ascending towards like the Earth's atmosphere. Okay. So this spaceship is using all this force and this fuel to eventually get to the point where it can pass the Earth's barrier, right? And if you look at any space movie, notice when the spaceship started going, and all the fire and the fuel, and it's all this force, like this, just, and then when it reaches the goal, hear me now, when it reaches the goal of getting out of space, what happens? The fire rocket part thing shuts off because it's reached its goal. It's in space. It's like it can just float. It could just exist. It could just be. And do you know what happens when you reach the goal? It now allows room for new discovery. Because when before the spaceship gets into outer space, everybody has to stay on high alert to make sure all systems are working, all things are going good, and all this is happening because we ain't reached the goal yet. We're on our way to the goal, but we have not reached the goal yet. We haven't reached the goal of outer space. So until we get there, we got to be on high alert. But then when you're in space, you can relax a little bit. And then when you're in space, instead of making sure that this spaceship is operating in a way to make sure we make it out of the Earth's barrier, that's no longer concern. We're here. We now can explore space. We now can explore space and discover new things. And this, my friends, is how the ascension starts to really show itself. Some people call it scale, okay? Because when you've reached a goal, it gives you the freedom to explore new possibilities, okay? So again, we are here to not only understand how to ascend our beautiful businesses and to scale, but also to operate in a way where you're not burned out, to operate in a way where it's future based and not avoidant based. We are here to ascend our business through work life integration and really honor that everything we create is an extension of our creative energy. No matter if you create it and you want to sell it later or whatever, there is a format and a formula to everything. Okay. So, again, I really enjoy being, this integration of an alchemist and an architect, and the extension of me is my company, the Vision Catalyst. We are a creation lab. Okay, we are a lab, and this is a beautiful place for not only exploration but also um to explore what your unique formula is and then actually implement it for the desired result and goal. Okay, so what I have found in my journey of both being in mass communications and marketing and radio and television production and business consulting, and then also in the space of health and wellness, from personal transformation, from emotional, mental, physical, um, transformation, there is a need for not only a space for you to actualize what your creative visions and energy want you to actualize, but also a space for your creative energy and your talents and your gifts to be revitalized. Okay. So I want to be very clear that this journey is all about your creation lab and your vitality as a visionary. Okay. So I really do appreciate you all for being here. And I hope that this message, this transmission has helped you in a lot of ways. And I look forward to exploring more with you about business ascension and visionary vitality. Until next time, family, continue to be great. Continue to create, and I will see you again in the lab.